years, my whole life, Christopher Gabriel. And I support what John's LA. And
John
we're
Degas.
concerned citizens.
This is Bill Haney, former chairman of the Finance Committee.
And the
Phil
gentleman-
Beauregard, attorney for the committee.
And what was your name, sir?
Beauregard.
And?
Jeff, you want to identify yourself? We're all introducing ourselves to each other.
Oh, sorry, I'm Jeff Sweat.
Member of the school committee, right?
I'm currently chairman of the school committee, and in 2003, I was chairman of the FinCom.
Okay, here's the courier. This is, went out this morning, I don't know if you got it or not. And do you have the legal opinion letter that we put together?
Probably.
Let me give you a copy. We've got plenty of them.
I've got some spares, and it's
Oh,
got
I've
the
got plenty.
attachments, John, as well.
Plenty of them.
It's got the vote and everything else.
Oh,
Yeah. Here you go. Yeah. Here, John, that's got the vote and everything else. It's got all the stuff attached. And we're sending that up to DOR. We're faxing
No,
it today.
this is the package.
Which has got the backup material.
All right, okay. Okay, well, I just want to thank the members of the press who have responded to our call for a press conference. Myself and Bill here are members of a committee that, what do we call ourselves, Bill? The Taxpayers for Full Disclosure. And the reason we chose that name is because we think there's an awful lot surrounding this issue that is not fully disclosed to the citizens of this community. And we consider ourselves good citizens, good taxpayers. Many of us have served for many, many years in various ways on behalf of the community. I served in the school committee for 21 years, on the finance committee for 5 years, on the high school building committee. I chaired that. Bill, as you know, was the chairman of recently the chairman of the finance committee. And we have probably 8 or 10 other members of our committee who've been attending our meetings, advising us, working with us, expressing their concerns, sharing them, and helping us form a consensus of where we should be at this point in time and what our position ought to be going forward. We have been deeply troubled by this issue because, as you know, it goes back to the year 2003, and the town has been told many, many things that have turned out not to be true. They were information that was given to us perhaps in good faith. We accepted it in good faith, and we voted in certain ways in good faith based on that information that came to us. We were told, for example, that the property in question would cost the town $450,000. As of today, we've exceeded, once we pay off the judgment on the settlement, well over $2 million. We believe that had that information been presented at town meeting in the year 2003, the citizens of this town would not have ever agreed to pay that kind of money for this particular piece of property. And so, and there's been many side issues that revolve around this issue. You've read about them in the papers. I'm not going to rehash any of that. We're not here for any of that, to be honest with you. We're here to talk about Article 17, which is going to be presented to the voters next Monday night at town meeting. And because of all the issues that have come up in the past, and where we are now convinced that we can never take anything for granted in this property because of the many surprises that we've experienced over the years, and we've taken it upon ourselves as a committee to go out and find out what the facts are. Trust but verify is one way of phrasing it, I suppose. And being absolutely certain that we can count on what the town has told us as being accurate about Article 17, so we can make a decision as to whether to support it or not support it. And we're not satisfied with what we found, and we do not find that we can support Article 17. And we think that the full disclosure needs to be made on a variety of things surrounding this issue. I would begin by pointing out to a letter that John McAuliffe, town administrator, who, by the way, has been very cooperative with me in providing me with information with this letter, for example, with the ability to have this meeting here in this office. And so I appreciate that, we appreciate that, and he's been very helpful in that regard. But nonetheless, I have here a letter that he wrote to the Department of Revenue, seeking an legal opinion as to the legal validity of the recommendation on Article 17, which is to take $1.1 million of money from the Community Preservation Fund for the purpose of paying off in full the settlement relating to the Swiss Beach property, which was litigated and a jury determining that it was worth over $500,000, $1.1 of which still remains to be paid, and that final payment take place on November 16th. He, in his letter, cites two things that I think are worth pointing out at this point in time. One is that the DOR, according to the chairman of the Community Preservation Committee, has some reservations about the legality of this, and I'll read directly from the letter, and I have copies of this letter for anybody who wants one. It is the belief of this is John McAuliffe's letter to the DOR, written to Attorney Gary Blah, who's Division of Local Services at the Department of Revenue. It is the belief of the Community Preservation Committee that you had discussed this scenario with the chairperson of the CPC, and that you had reservations, you meaning Mr. Blah, about CPC funds being used for this judgment. So right off the bat, we have a red flag on this issue that it needs to be resolved, and to this point in time, this letter has not been answered by the Department of Revenue. So we're still waiting for that, and we have taken it upon ourselves to present Mr. Blah and others of the department with additional information that we feel was not sent to him. We do not think the town presented DOR with a full disclosure of all the facts surrounding this issue. And I'm not going to blame John McAuliffe. He was new in the job. He was only here a couple of days. I think he would dearly love to put this issue behind him. He wants to start running this town in an orderly fashion, but he's got this terrible issue to contend with out of the starting box, and I think he's got a problem with it, and he'd like to see it go away. The second sentence that I'd like to cite in this letter, which again I have copies of, also of concern to the chairperson of the CPA, that is, of the CPC, is that CPC funds were used as part of the original acquisition. Now that simply isn't true. Everyone knows that in the year 2003, the town agreed to a recommendation of an expenditure of $550,000, $450,000 of which was to go to the purchase of this property for municipal purposes. And we have the order of taking itself, when eventually the town took it by eminent domain, clearly stated that. So it was not taken by CPC. CPC wasn't involved at the time. They never made any recommendation at the time. They, as I recall, didn't even speak on the subject at town meeting at the time. So that's a statement of fact. It isn't a fact. It's not a fact. And it wasn't until a year later, at the October town meeting of 2004, that CPC, at the request of selectmen to provide them with some funds to help reduce the amount of the loan, because the town went out and borrowed this money, the CPC agreed to provide about half of that to them. That's the first involvement of CPC. So right off the bat, we don't have a CPC initiative on this particular issue. Now, surrounding that point, there are many legal technicalities, and I, for one, am not a lawyer. I'm a farmer, okay? So I'm not going to try to debate or discuss legal issues to the full extent. That's why we decided that we decided to hire an attorney. Not that we wanted to do that, not that we don't have better things to do, but we think we've been let down tremendously by town council, who's been involved with this from day one, who has not given the town good guidance on how to proceed, has not given them good